What a rousing way to start our Friday, November 5th. If everyone could stand, we'll start with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Stay standing and we'll sing the old 100th. All people that on earth do dwell, sing to the Lord with cheerful voice. Serve him with fear, his praise foretell. All come before him and rejoice. Okay, take your seats. Thank you. I'm joined here on stage by half of our 8th grade to present our Veterans Day Chapel. Now, Veterans Day is next week, next Thursday, but this is our all-school chapel that directly precedes that, so we're going to do that today. Before we get started, a couple of birthdays. We only have 3 birthdays in the coming week, but all birthdays are important here at Montgomery. So starting with today, Friday the 5th, 4th grader Zafia Rowans. Happy birthday, Zafia. On Tuesday, the 9th, our friend, Playhouse preschool teacher, Mrs. O'Ketty. Happy birthday to Sam. And on Wednesday, the 10th, 1st grader Claire Felker. Happy birthday, Claire. I just want to thank everyone for a great week. Can you believe that this week actually started with Halloween on Sunday? It seems like it's been a long week. A lot has happened, but looking back, thanks everyone for a great Friday last week with Fall Fun Day. All the volunteers, everyone who pitched in, it was a really special day. Good luck to my friends here in the room for IC testing tomorrow. 8th graders will be taking their secondary school placement test, which they've been practicing hard for. So let's all wish them well. Take a moment to send your good vibes. Okay, they're going to do great. And also this weekend, we have an admissions open house here on campus from 1 to 2:30. Parents, listeners, friends, if you have a person you would like to invite, we would like to have them here. So be sure to either go to the website, there's a pop-up there and they can sign up, or just reach out to us, talk to Mr. Coco in the admissions office. Even late sign-ups will be accepted. So we have a very special chapel in store. We started, of course, with the national anthem, and I'm told that we're going to finish with a special rendition of God Bless America by Karen Wisniewski. So enjoy the program. And with that, here we go.
Good morning, everyone. I think perhaps it is fitting. Hold on a minute, let me get this organized here. Okay. I think perhaps it is fitting that I will be delivering today's chapel talk, as I have always had a soft spot, a special place in my heart for veterans. For me, within my own family, it was my father, 4 of my uncles, 2 brothers-in-law, and my father-in-law who served at various points in time. In particular, I am the daughter of a World War II veteran who arrived on the shores of Cherbourg, France in the few short weeks after D-Day in June 1944 to participate in the liberation of Cherbourg and the towns and villages across Normandy. Additionally, my father served as a cryptographer who decoded German messages, who went on to the Battle of the Bulge, and who ultimately helped secure the liberation of Paris and Hitler's Europe. To this day, I could not be more proud of my father, an immigrant who came to this country as a young teen, who then went on to proudly serve his adopted home. But while my father and one of my uncles were stationed in Europe, my other uncles fought in the Pacific during the Second World War. Thankfully, all of them returned home safely, but in varying degrees of wellness. For those uncles who served in the Pacific, the trauma of their experiences remained visible for the rest of their lives. My father and my uncle who served in Europe were able to work through their experiences and return to civilian life with greater ease. However, in the decades that followed, they never spoke of their service in World War II with anyone but each other, and I only learned of my father's wartime experiences for the first time when my sister shared his Army discharge papers and his letters with me last month as I prepared this chapel. So in many ways, I deliver this chapel in honor of my father and my uncles, and in honor, recognition, appreciation, and gratitude for all those who served this country over the years. And when you are able, do some exploring, and you may find that you too have immediate or extended family members, relatives, or even ancestors who have served their country. Now, I want to give you all a glimpse into one soldier's service and the sacrifices he endured in a war long ago. So to begin this chapel, I will be sharing some excerpts from those letters written by my father on the move in northern France in 1944 and 1945 to my mother, who waited patiently at home, recounting some of his wartime experiences. The names he mentions are those of my uncles and of my older sister, April, who was then a toddler. The Jerrys he refers to is the Allied nickname for the Germans with whom we were at war. December 10th, 1944, somewhere in France. We've seen much of the invasion ground from Rouen to Cherbourg, some mess. Cayenne in particular looks like those newsreel shots with hardly 2 stones left together. That, of course, was where some of the bitterest fighting took place, and it took a merciless pounding. There are stacks of German equipment which they lost in the push everywhere: tanks, guns, and of course the ubiquitous landmine and booby traps. The engineers, however, have been over the territory covered so far by us, and we're as safe as can be expected. We are located in what was once a fashionable hotel. The walls and the floors are still standing. If we thought we'd be here for long, we would build bunks, but we probably won't be. So we sleep on the marble floors. It's dry and fairly comfortable, although we still can't bathe, and there is no light or heat. This is December. Some of us, the first to arrive here, were quartered in another hotel further down the beach, and it was rugged. Between the Jerrys and our engineers, only a shell of the building remained. We bunked on the 4th floor with nothing between us and the cellar below, but lots of very wet air. It has rained constantly since our arrival, except when it was hailing. What we want most of all, since we can't get home, is mail. It's so far behind us, over a month, and heaven knows when it will catch up. Just remember, if you must reach me in a hurry, and I pray you don't, see the Red Cross. New Year's Eve, 1944, somewhere else in France. To any year that could see us parted by 3,000 miles of space, I am very happy to say goodbye. Since I have received no recent mail from you, I cannot comment on anything you may have mentioned in your letters. This one-sided correspondence is pas bon, not good, but unfortunately I can do nothing about it. I see Jackie's campaign is over for a while. Hope he's okay. It's supposed to have been the bitterest campaign of the Pacific, worse than Tarawa or Guadalcanal. It's a terrible way to spend Christmas. He'll be moving on, I guess, as soon as they reorganize. No doubt you were reading all kinds of scary headlines about us over here. Don't worry, we have it under control. The Jerrys were really dug in around these parts. The whole hill on which we're billeted is honeycombed with underground fortifications. They were all air-conditioned, lighted by electricity, pumped dry constantly. The floors were cement and the beds of metal, complete with springs, mattresses, and pillows. They had a small railroad running through certain passages on which supplies were moved. In addition, the Germans had absolutely all the wine in France. They left not one, but only broken bottles. January 19th, 1945, on the move in France. According to your letter number 12, April is now a full-fledged young lady. The change in her in the 7 months since I've seen her must indeed be tremendous. She is no longer a baby. I left her as a baby, and you know how she has grown. I regret that I missed so much of the change from chrysalis to butterfly. February 18th, 1945. I had a V-mail from my mother saying Jackie is okay after 26 days of the roughest kind of action, which cost a great many of his buddies. What do I think about, dream about? Only what 11 million other soldiers think, dream, and live for: home. Of course, one can always sleep, wherever we might be, and we take full advantage of that. You learn that in the Army, if nothing else. Sleep when you have the chance, because when the usual hours for sleeping arrive, you may be on duty. Our wants are simple: mail from those we love, a decent meal, a dry place to sleep. February 24th, France. I have acquired an inner spring mattress. Actually, it's not a mattress, but a padded box spring. The other guys have them too, or they sleep on straw bedding. We might even get our blankets cleaned. Utopia. If we stay clean all day until we roll in our blankets, and then we need a shower. I'm not using mine since we were issued sleeping bags. We've had them since long before we left the States. They've lain on the ground, we've slept in them with our boots on, we've walked in them, spread them out on the trucks, swept dirt and ashes all over them, and they are filthy. March 5th, northern France. I had my first edible meal, in fact, my first food worthy of the name, in 2 weeks. March 11th, France. Isn't it ironic that I, in the safest spot of all the family who are in this war, am the only one not permitted to tell you where I am? Jack, Bill, Richie, Richard, and all the rest can tell, but not I. For once, we've had a rumor confirmed. Germany's Italian army has capitulated. Perhaps the rest will follow soon. May 20th, 1945, 12 days after VE Day. There is no news to speak of. One day is very much like another. It's just a matter of waiting now, maybe 6 weeks, more likely 6 months, to learn what disposition is to be made of us. Of course, we are still working, just like before hostilities ceased. I can now tell you where we were after leaving Liverpool and Hereford near Wales. We had some submarine scares, of course, on the way over, and we traveled most of the way alone. We saw some German planes and experienced some shelling from German batteries. Then we were subject to several raids by German patrols from the Channel Islands, where we were on Peninsula, and snipers east of Rouen when we first landed. And of course, the omnipresent landmines, millions of them. Cayenne, Lisieux, Bayeux, Saint-Lô, and other towns with which I am very well acquainted had the misfortune to be directly in the path of the breakthrough. You cannot conceive of the destruction wreaked at that time, leaving life and death out of it. Many of the famous buildings were reduced to rubble, not only to rubble, but to dust. I have seen or spoken to many of our released POWs. What some of those boys went through, particularly some of the British who were captured at Dunkirk and on Crete, and our own from Italy and the Bulge, not pretty at all. And lastly, June 19th, 1945, Le Havre, France. The place is full of rumors about us, a new one every hour, on the hour, and everything from us going home to the China, Burma, India theater. And all of our friends who have been overseas almost 3 years have already departed for the Pacific Theater directly. So heaven knows what will become of us. And now I'm going to call on my advisees to share the background of Veterans Day with you. First, a little history.
Throughout this nation's history, American soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen have bravely and selflessly answered the call to defend our shores and often our freedom, to aid our friends and allies, and to turn back aggressors. We can never fully repay our debt of gratitude to more than 650,000 American service members who did not come home, or to the 1.4 million who were wounded. We can, however, recognize, honor, appreciate, and thank the 25 million veterans still living today. The following words are inscribed on Korean War Memorial in Washington, D.C. Our nation honors her sons, daughters, who answered the call to defend a country they never knew and a people they never met. These words also apply equally to all of our servicemen and women who have served this country in numerous capacities in the past. They apply to today's active duty service members, tomorrow's veterans, who are helping to maintain peace throughout the world.
Today is our privilege to say thank you to all of America's veterans, to let them know that we appreciate them for their service and honor, them for their sacrifices. We often hear the price of freedom is high, and so we cannot afford to forget those who are willing to pay that price. On November 11th, 1918, 103 years ago, at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, the guns of the Great War fell silent. After 4 long years, the bloodiest conflict in human history was over. And it's fair to say the world would never be the same. There was no precedent. The numbers were staggering, certainly beyond ability to comprehend. 32 nations and their colonies, tens of millions of military deaths, and even more civilian deaths and casualties.
Often overshadowed by successor, World War II, only 21 years later, the impact of the First World War on the past century must not be forgotten, and its reach extends until the present time. It would be President Eisenhower, once the Supreme Allied Commander during World War II, who would officially change the name from Armistice Day, which signaled the end of World War I, to Veterans Day in 1954, to pay tribute to all American veterans, living or dead, who served this country honorably during war or in peacetime. On Veterans Day, next Thursday, November 11th, the 11th day of the 11th month, take a minute at 11 a.m. to remember the sacrifices endured in what was remembered to be the war to end all wars, and to honor with gratitude the service of all America's veterans, past and present.
A little more history, the Tomb of the Unknowns. In October 1921, 4 unidentified U.S. military servicemen who died in the First World War were brought home from France for burial here at home. A month later, on Armistice Day, November 11th, 1921, exactly 3 years to the day after the end of the Great War, one of these unknown soldiers was placed on a horse-drawn carriage and brought in a procession through Washington, D.C., and across the Potomac River. The soldier had fallen somewhere on the battlefields of France, and in remembrance of this fact, 2 inches of French soil were placed under his coffin so that he might eternally rest upon the ground where he died.
A state funeral ceremony was held at Arlington National Cemetery, and the serviceman was then interred in the tomb of the unknown soldier. Americans across the country observed 2 minutes of silence at the beginning of the ceremony. President Warren G. Harding officiated over the event and placed the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military decoration, on the casket, as did the foreign leaders also in attendance. Later, a bronze plaque honoring an American service member from the Vietnam War, whose identity at the time was unknown, was placed on the tomb on Veterans Day, November 11th, 1978.
How can we help today's veterans and show our appreciation? Although we can never fully repay our nation's veterans, we can respond in the best way we know how, by being a support system for them when they need us the most. Sometimes, even a small gesture can mean a lot and go a long way. Some veterans may face challenges because of their military service, and they can use support and assistance in a variety of ways that may not always be obvious. First, say thank you. One of the easiest ways to support veterans is a simple and sincere thank you. You may see former service members wearing hats or jackets which identify the areas where they were deployed. Or you can send cards and letters to vets who are now residents of VA facilities. This act of gratitude for everything that the veteran faced and gave up seems like such a small thing, but it is something that they may not hear as often as they should. These 2 words can brighten a Veterans Day when you acknowledge their service.
Along those lines, spend time with a vet and take the time to listen. Another way that you can give back something to a veteran who is willing to sacrifice everything is to spend time with them and really listen to them. Ask them to share their stories if they are willing, and respectfully show an interest in what they have to say. Get to know veterans in your area and spend time with them so that they are socially connected and do not end up feeling isolated or alone. Get permission to bring your pet along. We all know that animals provide emotional and physical benefits, and according to the Mayo Clinic, animal-assisted therapy can significantly reduce pain, anxiety, depression, and fatigue as they interact with people. Dogs are the most commonly used therapy and service animals. So, a well-behaved dog can be certified as a therapy companion who will then be able to share affection and a sense of calm with a veteran. Help veterans get medical care and other resources. Adult volunteers can drive veterans to appointments at Veterans Affairs hospitals around the country. And when you're old enough, you can volunteer at VA hospitals by serving holiday meals or playing board games. Many communities have organizations that provide the above-mentioned service dogs to vets, and there are organizations such as one called the Puppy Jake Foundation that need volunteers to raid puppies to be service dogs, which are then given to vets. These animals can assist and help soothe veterans who have PTSD, brain injuries, vision impairments, and other physical injuries. Do an act of kindness. You can also surprise veterans in your community by assisting them with things such as grocery shopping, running errands, washing their car, helping with yard work, providing help with technology, or shoveling their sidewalk or driveway in the winter. Lastly, support other organizations such as Wounded Warriors, Disabled American Vets, Tunnels to Towers, or the USO. These provide free, life-changing services to ensure all veterans receive the benefits, support, and care they deserve, and the chance to live fulfilling lives with respect and dignity after giving of themselves to protect our freedoms as well as others around the world. Some groups even offer events to raise funds as well as awareness that every age can participate in, such as Yearly 5K or the Victories for Veterans Challenge.
These are just a handful of the many ways that we can show appreciation and give back to those who have given so much. Through research and inquiry, we can find additional opportunities that are available to help our service members experience a successful return to civilian life. Thank you for joining us this morning, and we close out this chapel with the words of Winston Churchill, British Prime Minister during World War II, reminding us all of this timeless truth. Never was so much owed by so many to so few. Thank you, and happy Veterans Day.
God bless America.
Thank you to the advisees and especially to Mrs. Schelhorn for amazing personal sharing at the beginning of the program. I was going to just sort of talk over your dulcet tones. You can go ahead. And we'll dismiss now. Thank you all very much for your hard work, and thank you to our troops.